Welcome to Manny's TV Talk, where we will talk about all of our favorite reality TV shows and news surrounding them. Grab a snack, a drink, and get comfortable because this starts now.
Hey, you guys, welcome back. So, today we're going to be talking about the new episode of Real Housewives of Atlanta. That's season 15, and this is the third episode. When I told you guys that this season was looking like it was going to be one of the best seasons of Atlanta, I was right. I mean, the season so far has been really good, and this episode had a lot. So, let's get right into it. Let's talk about it. So, the opening scene is Shereé. We've been getting a lot of Shereé lately, right, you guys? Like, this is definitely her year on reality TV. I mean, Love and Marriage Huntsville, Atlanta, on so many opening scenes. But she's at home. She's having a nice brunch, and Sanya and Marlo come over. But they're actually just coming back from BravoCon, and they discuss it, which is a little bit surprising because I feel like a few years ago they wouldn't have been able to like break the fourth wall, like talking about Bravo in the reunion. But they do talk about it. They definitely love seeing the love that the fans gave them. But what's really on everybody's mind is Momma Joyce. So she spent basically the whole BravoCon shading Todd, and Marlo even says something in her confessional. She says, Kandi needs to stop talking about me because the streets are talking. And then she whispers, and the streets are your mama. That was so unexpected, and it was definitely worth a chuckle. But they also talk about the panel that they did with the whole cast. And Sanya was is still a little upset at Drew. She thinks that Drew kind of came out of left field, especially when she thought they had been in a better place. And then speaking of Drew, she is the next scene with her husband Ralph. Again, they seem super good and happy up to this point. And apparently they're still going to couples therapy and they're going on a date. They're going indoor climbing. And while Drew was doing it, she fell. And I was just thinking, oh Lord, please don't let her break her foot again. But yeah, they both had fun. And then they talk a little bit about the music they're doing together. And like I said last week, they look so good. So seeing this in hindsight, it's a little bit confusing. But the next scene is Kenya. She's actually on the phone and she's screaming. She even cusses at some of her employees, which was a little bit like, damn. And I mean, to be fair, they could have been making a mistake. Maybe they made it more than once, but she was still very, yeah, she was yelling at them. But then she FaceTimes Monyetta, who I didn't know was a choreographer. But Kenya is going to need her because she's doing like something with a band or something with a school or something like that to that effect. So they're talking about that. And then the next scene is Kandi with her employee, and Kandi is going over everything that she has to do, like as far as projects and stuff like that. And that Kandi, she stays busy. That's how I'm trying to be, being on that hustle 100%. So she writes everything down on the whiteboard that she's doing. So the last thing that honestly that she can do is help Todd with the movie. So that's what she's trying to figure out right now. And then Monyetta arrives with Kandi and they begin to talk about BravoCon and all the things that Momma Joyce said. And Kandi is saying that Todd was definitely upset hearing some of those things. Moving along, Drew is at home and she's having Courtney over because it turns out that Courtney is Ralph's cousin. But as she's doing that and getting the dinner ready, and waiting for Courtney to arrive, Drew gets a FaceTime from Candiace from the Potomac Housewives. So Candiace is doing a show and she was going to have Shamari perform, but Shamari wasn't going to be able to go. So she wants Drew to go instead. And Drew is super happy and she's super excited. I was glad to see how happy she got. But anywho, Courtney arrives with a guy who is her baby daddy, which apparently Drew knows because they were co-stars a very long time ago, and it really surprised Drew. And it's crazy. It's like it's almost as if everyone in Atlanta knew each other. It's crazy, but it's really cool that they all kind of like interconnected. And then out of all the times that Drew could have FaceTime Kandi, she decides to do it right then and there. And she's really messy. She goes on the FaceTime and says, "Look, Kandi, look who's here. It's Ralph's cousin." And then I was like, "Wait, but Drew wasn't at the party, so maybe she didn't know what happened with Courtney and Kandi, but she did know because Ralph told her." But Drew tells Kandi about the performance, and Kandi says, "I'll definitely be there." But then these four are having dinner, and Courtney begins to tell Drew what happened. And then, as they're talking, Drew takes the opportunity to warn Drew about. I'm sorry, warn Courtney about Sanya. And Drew's basically saying that she doesn't trust her. Then we see Marlo with her nephews, which at this point are basically her kids, and now more than ever, she wants to really keep them safe after one of her nephews lost his life. And they're driving, and actually, she pulls over to a mall, and some guy comes out with some bags and puts them in the back trunk. I was like, what was that about? But moving along, we see Drew going to a rehearsal with Candiace, and then the day of the show finally comes. All the ladies are there except Shereé, and we even see Dr. Heavenly pop over, so that was cool. So right from the beginning, Kandi, Kenya, and Monyetta are doing the exclude Marlo thing. They sort of just say like, "Hey," they don't even like hug or shake hands or anything, but at least they were cordial enough to say hey. And then Candiace goes on with her performance. She does a good show, and then she brings up Drew. But here's the thing. That wasn't really a performance. Drew just pretty much got up there to do some vocals. So that was a little weird. But it was really nice though. After Drew got off of her 50 seconds on stage, Ralph gave her some flowers. That was sweet. And once again, everything is um I'm sorry, once everything is over with the show and the performance, all the women go back to a spot in the place. It was like a winery type of thing, and they all tell Drew that they thought she would have stayed a little bit longer, but they all say she did really good. And then they get into the mess. So Sanya first goes and says that she's confused with Drew because she thought they were cool, but once in BravoCon, they seem to, take a step backward. But Drew and her talk it out, they squash the beef, and they even hug it out. No one really wants to or cares to see them argue, so that's probably for the best. But then Kandi starts too. She says to Courtney that she heard that she was saying some things about her to Sanya. And Courtney says, "Yeah, I did. I said that ghetto people started coming with you when you arrived somewhere." And then Kenya calls Courtney aggressive. I'm not sure why Kenya likes to use that word. I think she needs to use a different word, and I don't even know why she was in it. But Kandi, that red haired Kandi came out, that voice when it starts to quaver like that. And she says, "I didn't bring the ghetto out because when I come, I bring everybody out." And then she says to Courtney, "You know what? Well, you are the ghetto." Meanwhile, Ralph is talking with Chris Bassett and Monietta's husband. They're having a good time. But going back to these ladies, Monyetta, who I like very much actually, but apparently now has an issue with Marlo all of a sudden, saying that Marlo wasn't nice when they were in that vacation last year. But Marlo, she doesn't really give her any mind. She just says, "Is that all? Okay." But then this is where it starts to get a little bit crazy. So Drew says to Kandi, "Hey, Kandi, what was that incident that happened at Blaze? It was all over the news." And Kandi says, "I'm not talking about it." So then Marlo is like, "Okay, well, I guess nobody wants to talk about it. We might as well leave." And I understand what Marlo is saying. So, throughout all the housewives, Erica Jane didn't want to talk about her stuff, but she had to. Jen Shaw didn't want to talk about her things, but she had to. Teresa Giudice didn't want to talk about her things, but she had to. So I think what Marlo is thinking is, why is Kandi any different, that she's kind of above reproach? Because I almost look at it as like a school project per se. Let's say that all the women are in a school project. Let's say the school project is the show. And maybe perhaps Marlo feels like all of them actually are sharing everything that's happening in their lives. And Candy's just kind of sitting back and watching. And Marlo's actually said this before in many interviews. So that's where Marlo is coming from. And if we actually, sit back and think, it definitely makes sense. But since they not really want to have the conversation, they all leave. But wait, after production left, something started to happen between Drew and Marlo. Somebody pulled out their iPhone and started recording. Good thing. So Marlo is upset at Drew for not pushing the conversation a little bit more. She's saying, why would you say the word incident? Why didn't you say the actual word, which is, the S'ing? And Drew's like, well, I don't know, this and that. And they begin to argue. I feel like there was something that we were missing, because I was even on social media and a lot of people were a little bit confused what the argument was really about, which I'm still a little bit confused also. But what I can kind of get from it is that Marlo wanted Drew to, talk more about it. And I think Drew said something like, well, I don't want to bring it because it's a sensitive topic. But then Marlo starts saying, well, if it's a sensitive topic to anyone, it's to me, who have just lost a nephew due to that same type of crime. So Marlo, props to Marlo as well. She sits down, completely shuts her mouth, and lets Drew talk. But you know how Drew is, a little bit long-winded, saying, talking too much, and Marlo gets upset. And she says, well, and then I think even Drew says, well, you know what? I have had people that I have lost too. Like, I'm from Chicago. This happens all the time. And then Marlo gets mad, gets up, and screams at Drew's face and says, my nephew is dead. And she storms out. Like, that was real anger. I could tell that was not fake. That was coming from the heart. I think she couldn't control it. So I don't know if it's misdirected anger, but Marlo did say in her confessional that when she told Kandi about the situation, they actually showed some screenshots of Kandi, and that was kind of dry of Kandi, because Marlo had said, my nephew just passed away. He worked at your restaurant. And Kandi said, damn, that sucks. Sorry to hear that. On a text message. Like, that's pretty dry. So I don't understand the complexity of this situation. Like I said, there's definitely something missing. But what I don't like, and people are going to disagree, that's okay. We live in a free world. So free of opinions, I mean. Some people have blinders. So they put their blinders on, and depending on who they like, what cast member, there's absolutely nothing wrong they could do. No negative thing, nothing. If they do anything wrong, they'll blame the other person. I'm not like that here. Of course, I have favorites and people I don't like in the shows, but I do try to judge every single situation like objectively. So that's just me. But as far as this episode, you guys, that's all we got. Pretty interesting, especially towards the end, but it did get a little bit dark, I will say. And then next week, it looks like there's going to be even more drama, a little bit now more with Marlo and Kenya. So, Marlo had been absent these past few episodes, so we're definitely going to start seeing more of her. But you guys let me know, what was your take on that last scene? Were you guys also confused? And what were your opinions? If you disagree with me, that's, like I said, that's okay. Just let me know in the comments, talk to me. I'll try to chat back, and then just your overall opinions of what happened in this episode. So please don't forget to like, subscribe. I'll catch y'all next time. Y'all have a great one. Bye.